With the release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem making its way into theaters, it is now time to stop and rank all of the 7 theatrically released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies from the worst to the best. Let's get started. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ben, and on this channel I love to talk about movies and TV, and if you also love to talk about movies and TV, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. As a point of reference, I have never been the biggest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guy. Growing up, I didn't even really watch any of the movies or the shows, and I just simply don't have much of a connection to the characters. I've never read any of the comics either, so when I was watching these movies, it was kind of just watching them from a movie perspective, whereas some people watch it from the perspective of a TMNT lover. But be sure to let me know down below in the comment section, how would you rank the 7 theatrically released TMNT movies? My list might be different from yours, but be sure to let me know down below. As a warning, there might be some hot takes here, but with all that said, let's get started. Easily coming in last place, the worst Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Now, this movie commits the simple crime of being terribly boring. While watching it, it felt like I was in a fever dream of sorts. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles go back in time, so it's not set in New York like the previous 2 movies. Shredder isn't even in this one. And this movie just panders to the lowest common denominator. It's so childish, and that's what aggravated me so much about this trilogy of TMNT movies from the 90s. You have to do a good job of balancing that line between being a movie for kids or families, but not being too childish to the point where anyone over the age of 10 maybe is going to find it annoying. And my biggest issue with the portrayal of the Turtles in these movies is that the writing believes that these characters have to be stupid as they're teenagers, but that fact alone is entirely untrue. There is genuinely nothing to enjoy about this movie, I think. In all regards, I think it fails as a whole. Above that is going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. Now, I think with these first 2 Ninja Turtles movies from the 90s, I feel like they're harmless. Like, they don't do anything offensively bad, like the third movie that is just terrible. But I have to say that I found that these first 2 movies were cringy, they were boring. The dialogue here is just dumb, nothing feels smart. With Secret of the Ooze, I guess there was some drama behind the scenes, so Casey is gone. With zero explanation, he's just there and gone. Shredder somehow survives the last movie with 0 issues, aside from like maybe a couple more scarring on his face. That makes no sense, but I guess he's some like alien being. Then you have Vanilla Ice performing. What in the hell are we doing? I guess you just have to blame the 90s for that. And I suppose the Ninja Turtles dancing could be fun for some. Seeing all that unfold on screen, it has that lighthearted nature, at least still. I do think it somewhat captures that childish nature of the Turtles, but as an audience member, I can't say I enjoyed that throughout the movie, because I just found them to be annoying rather than characters that I actually liked. And Secret of the Ooze kind of just ends abruptly too. This is just one of those Ninja Turtles movies that I have no interest in going back and revisiting. Similar to the movie above it, the other animated Ninja Turtles movie, TMNT from 2007. Unfortunately here, the animation does look pretty poor. Even just comparing it to other movies at the time, it does look very lackluster. Something that bugged me was when they're first doing the character introductions, they have the text pop up on screen like you know who these turtles are by now. Even if this was your first time watching a Ninja Turtles movie, I feel like the characters and their names alone, they're just in the pop culture zeitgeist and you're gonna know who they are. And plus, before the text pops up on screen, they are already referred to by their names by another character. Verbally, but again, that's just a little nitpick. Another big issue is that the Turtles aren't even teenagers here, but they're more so retired crime fighters. A couple other than the Ninja Turtles movies does do this, but I feel like those movies do it better. The voice cast is aggressively mediocre. I found the movie to just be boring, with a very forgettable and just digestible villain that stands no real threat, I felt. It is very juvenile, so I think kids will enjoy it, but now that you have a better Ninja Turtles movie that's animated, I don't think you should ever rewatch this one. Plus, you don't even really feel that there's a core team dynamic between the Turtles. It mainly just focuses on Raph and Leo. And there's a conflict between the 2 characters, but you don't even get that much time to explore it with an under 90-minute runtime. I think the action is solid in animated form. I feel like that's what holds it up from the other couple movies, but it never truly answers if TMNT is a sequel or a reboot. There's a bunch of confusion as to, is this a movie that's a follow-up to the 90s movies, this time just in animated form, or are they rebooting the franchise? I don't really know. But while watching it, it definitely feels like you're playing catch up, as there is more to the story of the Turtles that when you're watching, you're learning about through dialogue. But there are points in time where I feel like I was more interested in what happened leading up to this movie rather than this movie. Above that is the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from the 90s that I've kind of warmed up to in a way. I still don't like the movie, don't get me wrong. Hearing other people's opinions on it that have grown up with it, that's why I think it's better than TMNT. But still, I just find this movie to be not funny, cringy once again. The line delivery is off from nearly every actor. The character designs are nightmare fuel. I mean, genuinely, just look at Splinter.
What the hell?
There are insane amounts of product placement, the action is underwhelming, and I just hate how the Turtles themselves are annoying. I don't like them. There are cheesy ass one-liners, but I guess you just have to blame the 90s for that. And I do truly hope that when we get the follow-up to Mutant Mayhem, they have a proper character arc for Shredder, because in this movie especially, he is terribly underdeveloped. You don't ever feel like he's a real threat, except for just his presence, I guess. Like, he's scary to the Turtles, but as an audience member, you don't even really know why he's doing what he's doing. His motives are unclear, and I think that every movie that features him does not do the character justice. Again, I'm no Turtles aficionado, so maybe that's just how he's always been, especially in the comics. But do something to make Shredder a character. He feels like an entity almost. Look, it's harmless, I guess, but these are just boring movies that I would never go back to revisit. In third place, I have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from 2014, the start of the Michael Bay produced era of the Ninja Turtles. And speaking of Michael Bay, visually, this movie has that Michael Bay look. The color grading isn't too appealing, and it just feels like kind of grimy. I will say that the Turtles movies of the 90s did a good job of capturing that icky feel to New York. That did make those movies feel darker in a sense. I personally do very much so dig the character designs in the Ninja Turtles movies. Maybe that's just because I favor these movies more, having watched them prior to viewing all these movies leading up to Mutant Mayhem. I enjoyed how there was more of a personal connection between April and the Turtles. Having them create that at the start, there leads to be a more connection between the audience and these characters. And I think they do a good enough job at fleshing out the characters and their relationships, though the writing is just fairly surface level. And that's what I feel definitely holds these movies back from being anything more than just pretty good. I would get rid of Will Arnett's character, just replace him with Casey Jones, which they somewhat do in the sequel, but he's still there. I do think the movie does feel rushed, but it's a overhated movie, I find. I don't think it's terrible by any means. The action set piece in the snow, that's a very cool sequence. And it has that great brotherly dynamic. You feel that this is an actual team of brothers. Brothers who have that bickering bond between each other. Though, they still aren't teens, and that's what the Michael Bay movies do fail at doing. They're not teenagers. I mean, these are basically full-on adult Ninja Turtles. But a runner-up is going to be the movie that I do think is better than its predecessor, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Plain and simple in terms of tone, this movie is a lot more fun compared to the previous movie. I mean, right out of the gate, you have a different director at the helm, and I feel like that had a lot to do with making this movie feel a lot more enjoyable in a sense. With that lighthearted tone, and something that I haven't mentioned before, but the visual effects, especially with the Turtles, but this movie as a whole, they're pretty damn terrific, and I don't think this movie gets enough praise in that aspect at least. Out of the Shadows is a silly movie, but it inherently works because the Turtles are literal talking ninjas. Especially this movie is held back with it being a tad overstuffed. There's one too many villains, and there's a real interesting conflict between the idea of the Turtles having to decide between turning into humans with this new drug of sorts that can transform them into humans. You have an intriguing concept and conflict between the main Turtles that doesn't really get as much time as it needs to shine. And I definitely feel that that could have been an idea saved for a third movie, especially how that could have all wrapped up would have been pretty interesting, and it would feel like a full circle moment. But overall, it's a pretty enjoyable movie, I feel. But coming in first place, almost by a landslide, is the newly released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Now, if you want to hear my full in-depth thoughts on this movie, I'll leave my review linked right up above. But I feel like plain and simple, this movie is just better than all of the movies before it because it nails the Turtles. It nails that feel of the teenagers. This is a truly charismatic group of turtles that you enjoy seeing. They're well realized. They each have their own dynamic that works to them, and they never are annoying because of that. And they all get to have their moment to shine. They work off each other very well, and I do feel like a lot of that is due to the voice cast, which is stellar. but they recorded this movie in a recording booth together where they were all in the same room, and that translates on screen where they just feel like they're rubbing off each other very well. The animation is very unique, it feels fresh, and this is also just a charming and funny movie. It feels like a throwback to the movies of the 90s, but it also maintains that 2023 feel with the pop culture references, and also just having this movie utilize popular terms that teenagers use. They feel like real teenagers. The music is phenomenal. The score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, it's one of the year's best, and they incorporate hip-hop and rap songs that just perfectly fit into the movie. Across the board, I did not expect this movie to have such a big impact on me as it actually did. It's one of my favorite movies of the year, one that I can definitely see me going back to revisit over the years, and I can't wait for more of these Turtles and just more of these Ninja Turtles movies from Seth Rogen and co. So that's why it had to come in at number 1. But that is it for my ranking of all the theatrically released Ninja Turtles movies. Be sure to let me know down below in the comments, what is your ranking of the movies? If you want to include another couple of the other Ninja Turtles movies that weren't theatrically released, go for it. I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and again, if you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as that notification bell so you don't miss any further videos and rankings like this. And as always, look forward to more content coming soon. My name is Ben, people call me Meter, and I'll see you guys in the next one.